Hello, I'm Onyx Asili. I'm a core company member of Novelties Theater, and I am here with the direct and unforgiving Scarlett O'Hairdye to discuss The Wicked and Divine performance. Scarlett, can you take a moment to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Scarlett O'Hairdye, as you may have just heard. I have been a burlesque performer and producer in the Seattle area for, going on 10 years. If we do or do not count the pandemic, I don't really know how to count those years. I like cats and cheese, and eating cheese while petting cats.
Excellent. Everyone's favorite pastime, especially in the pandemic.
I have forgotten how to introduce myself.
That's okay. We're all learning together as we go. So we're here to talk about your performance, which is based on the comic book The Wicked and Divine. For those of us who are maybe not familiar with it, can you give us a quick summation of what that work is?
So it is the sort of central conceit of The Wicked and the Divine is that every 90 years, 12 people are chosen basically at random to reincarnate into gods. And then for 2 years, those people are worshipped just feverishly by the public, and then they die. And then 90 years later, it happens again. And the comic starts in the current incarnation of this cycle, which is set in like modern day, the world. And in this instance, the gods are reincarnated as pop stars. Like that is it, which is not to say that pop stars are chosen to reincarnate into gods. It's once you become a god, you also become a pop star, because that is who we worship in the sort of like frenzied way that feeds their power.
And can you tell us a little bit about the character that you particularly chose to embody?
Yes, so she is the Morrigan. She is a reincarnation of the threefold goddess from Celtic mythology, and she does punk shows in an abandoned underground subway station. And like the Morrigan of mythology, she has 3 aspects. So there are, it's kind of a maiden with her crown thing, but what it actually is the one that you can have a reasonable conversation with, the one who's kind of pissed off, and then the one that I chose who will fucking murder you.
And speaking of the one that you chose, what drew you to this character? What was the thing that sort of made you go, yep, that's an act I need to make?
So I came to burlesque from a strong cosplay background. So what happened was I turned a page in a comic book and I saw a half-page spread of this outfit and I was like, I gotta make that. I also tend to look for characters who have red hair, which is, there's a part of me that's like, I'm gonna try and find characters that I can wear with my natural hair because that way I won't have to wear a wig while I'm at a convention. And then I pick somebody who's got a friggin' Merida hairdo going on. I gotta get a wig anyway. But it does mean that sometimes, not this time, but sometimes I can reuse my red wigs.
Excellent.
But yeah, it was just, I was like, this is such a striking costume that I really want to make it into something that I can wear out in the world. And then also because I have a cosplay background, I actually have a version of this, and by a version I mean there's like one different costume piece. That means I can actually wear it at conventions instead of just a stage costume, and that is I have a like little lace half shirt that goes underneath the corset that has a mesh sleeve on it that I painted the crows on, so that 2 things. First of all, you don't have to completely disrobe and then take off a onesie to go to the bathroom while you're in a convention space, and then 2, I do not have to spend an hour painting crows on my arm. Thank you very much to my wife, Crystal, who was backstage freehanding these for quite some time.
So it sounds like you came to this first with the costume, and then eventually created a whole piece. So can you walk us through some of your process for that?
Well, I knew I wanted to do an act when I first started working on the costume, so like I planned it in such a way that I could use most of the costume for both things. When it came to actually developing the act, I knew like I wanted something screamy, and I knew I wanted like a piece of music that would really like let me go hard. Typically, when I'm not constrained by the needs of, you know, not getting hit by DCMA takedowns, I performed this act to a song called Pretty Like Drugs by Queen Adrena. And I actually ended up choosing that song because I, at a convention, was able to meet the creators of the comic, and I asked what her music would sound like. And they said that was the song that they sort of picked out as their inspiration, and I went and I listened to it and I was like, oh no, yeah, this is perfect. It's so loud, and it's loud and angry and aggressive, and it has a theme. The band has a female vocalist who doesn't care about sounding pretty. So it's just like very raw and like very angry and very thrashy, which is a lot of fun to do on stage.
Wow, so you have actually already interacted with the creators.
I have.
And gotten a little bit of their feedback.
Yes, I tweeted a video of the act at them and they liked it.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's like some of the highest praise we can have as performers.
Yeah, they're just, they're very open to fan interpretations and like love to see what fans are doing and things like that. So we saw them at MLC Comic Con because they happened to be there the year that, you know, I decided to do this costume. They like got pictures of us and posted pictures of our costumes on Twitter and stuff like that. And it's always really lovely to interact with a creator who like really cares about what fans are doing, but like not in a creepy way. And also not in a prescriptive way. And then also not in a way where they actually like, this is gonna sound weird, but like they're writing the story that they're writing. They're not trying to write the story that they think the fans want to see. And I think that's important too, to like be able to see how the interpretations people take from your work, but not necessarily let that drive your creative vision in a way that, in a different way than you intended in the first place.
Excellent. So we mentioned that there's a pantheon of gods, and you chose one particular god, but if you were to go back and do this again, and you were going to choose a different character to embody, who do you think you would choose for round 2?
Oh man, that's a really good question, and it's also a really hard question because it's honestly been quite a while since I've read it. I think I gotta do the kind of cheap answer and say that I would do Amaterasu, who is also a redhead. But I think specifically that Amaterasu would be kind of a fun one to do an act as because she's explicitly Florence and the Machine inspired. And as you may realize, having either seen or being about to see my act, I love something that involves a lot of flowy fabric. So that would be a great opportunity to play around with fabric on stage, but in like a completely different vibe. I think that'd be fun.
One last question. If you had the opportunity to make your act, as it currently stands, a part of a larger show, and you could cast the rest of the cast, who would you include in that show and why?
Are we talking about like a potential like live action adaptation or a burlesque show? Because I have different answers for different.
Your choice.
So I actually don't want to see a live action adaptation of this series. First of all, there's just a lot of shows, so you'd have to do a really like long form format, I think, to get a lot of it in there. And a lot of the sort of existential horror of the comic comes from the fact that these people are very young. They're like, some of them are in their teens and they get incarnated into gods, and then they're going to die in 2 2 years. Like, that's not fair to anyone. So you'd have to film it like real short in order to be able to cast people young enough to actually like let that horror get its like claws in. And then the other thing is when the gods sing, they're not singing actual music. Like that's part of the thing. They sing this like God speak that drives people into a frenzy. And I think it would be really difficult to translate that into a film, into a visual context, and not have something that you can like listen to, if that makes sense. But if I did a burlesque show, I'd cast you again.
Woo! So, Scarlett O'Hairdye, producing burlesque show. Mostly because I just want to get cast in it. But thank you for joining us tonight, Scarlett. Thank you for sharing your art with us. And is there anything else you would like to say about your act before we get to see it?
Every single time I forget I have to put the crows on until the day before the act, and eventually I'm going to figure out a better way than making my wife paint them, but I love her very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Ekphrasis, a production of Novelties Theatre. If you enjoyed this episode, we invite you to make a tax-deductible donation through the link in the video description. And don't forget to like and subscribe below, so you don't miss our next episode featuring Whisper de Corvo with The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.